the winter we had was not a challenge for any of the pests that we typically deal with. So there's no reason to think that like a harsh winter would be the reason that we don't deal with bean leaf beetles, for instance, or stink bugs, or certainly not corn rootworm. They didn't get touched by what we experienced. Now, the good news for that, there's a lot of factors other than the cold, a lot of ecological factors. I mean, natural enemies, pathogens, competition with other insects. There's a lot that goes into determining the sort of pest pressure we see beyond just the winter. You know, every time I start making predictions, even this time of year, like even as the season is starting, I'm usually wrong. so I've gotten out of the business of trying to predict like what's going to be a problem this year. Usually I find out the same time everybody else does. Cornleaf aphid last year, for instance, I never would have guessed that that would have been a thing for us. And it was a very big thing in early to mid-July last year.
Should people be worrying about that this year? Should they look for it and anticipate and load up their barrel and ready to fire?
You know, that's a really good question. A lot of times that's what we end up doing, right? We kind of respond to what happened a year ago. There's been a lot of insecticides that went out for alfalfa weevil this spring already, for instance, based on what happened a year ago. With cornleaf aphid, that's a migratory pest. What that means for us, our populations are coming in from outside, and every year really is a completely different year. That winter comes through with that insect, and it doesn't really matter if it's a good winter, a bad winter, unless it's a historically mild, freakish winter in Illinois, they're not going to survive that. And we're going to get the majority of our populations of cornleaf aphid from the southern U.S. And down there, it's going to depend on what conditions are like early in the growing season. You know, more so than the winter, it depends how high those populations get, and then what the weather patterns are that are bringing them in at these particular times. What very likely happened last year is we had really favorable conditions for that insect in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, in Texas, you know, in areas to our southwest, and then we had the right storms come through at the right time to bring those aphids to us while they were flying, you know, while they were in that winged state. So it takes a lot of different factors working all together to bring an insect like the cornleaf aphid to Illinois at sort of economically damaging populations. It's kind of a roulette game, right? You don't really know when all those things are going to come up right again. Maybe a slot machine, maybe that's better. You know, you got to get that combination of the right stuff or the wrong stuff for that to happen.